Evening. I wanted to come on here and talk to you guys about something real quick. This ugly, and very unnatural, very weird. It's unnatural, it's alien, it's bizarre. This unnatural, alien-esque type, and I'll go into that. This alien-esque almost type of harassment of lighter skinned black women and black people, lighter skinned black people, period, by angry black women who are of a darker skin color, is what we're going to talk about. And I'm definitely qualified to talk about it. Being a black person, I'm definitely able to talk about it. Just quick disclaimer, if you are a good white person watching this, I'm not suggesting for these black people to attack you. Trust me. They probably already are underhandedly. But most of them worship y'all like Jesus. So you don't have to worry about that. But all of the hate, all of the attacks, I mean, my God. This one girl on here, and I shared it to my community wall. The last interaction I had with her was where she was telling me, "You're never going to have a house. You're never going to have a home. You're never going to have love. You're never going to have anything." And it is literally because she is a darker skinned woman who has a problem with me because of my skin tone and my complexion. And this needs to be talked about. I'm not going to ignore it. I'm not. I want to talk about it because of the simple fact that, first of all, there is no particular skin color that as they call us in America, black, which just because it's America doesn't mean that they always make the best decisions. Nobody is like a black color crayon and shit. So I don't understand why they classify race by black and white. To me, that's kind of weird. They don't call Mexican people yellow, so that just doesn't make any sense. That might be something that was done to, keep. I have no idea. It is what it is. We're not going to sweat the small stuff. Um, but there's no skin complexion that is supposed to be correct amongst black people. Like all of us don't have to be darker skinned or a certain shade or color, to be black. Even going all the way back to Egypt, black women and men, even kings and queens, were of different skin complexions. They were. Keep in mind, Africa is not a country, it's a continent, which means that it's humongous. It's huge. It's not like stepping out and walking down the block. It's a very, very large area where there were many different kingdoms and queendoms and tribes and areas. And those people consisted of people of different races and hues. Now, when you look at footage of people in Africa, for some reason, and I don't know why they do that, maybe they do this on purpose, but they always show us, even in National Geographic, which I can't even say that I've seen every National Geographic, so I may be incorrect in this. But they always picture darker skinned Africans when we know that there are so many African people that are different shades. They are my complexion too. And just because a person is lighter skinned doesn't necessarily mean it was because they mixed their race either. In Africa, there's pure-blooded African people that have given birth to, like, literally lighter skinned black people. Yeah, they are shady, Delphine. They are. They are very shady. There are some people, and you can see them on YouTube sometimes. It'll be an extremely dark-skinned black person, and they will give birth to a black baby, but the baby will have blue eyes sometimes. The baby will have light skin, and even sometimes blonde hair. That's not very common, but it does happen often enough. So, since we all know, and even scientists have admitted, that all life originated in Africa, being that we know that, what is up with people in America and their colorism? Now, I can tell you of my history, which I was just doing some ancestor work. Oh man, and they took it to the next level. My grandmother, Lena Briscoe, Lena Eloise Louisa Briscoe, was brown skinned. She was a very beautiful chocolate brown woman. And my grandfather, Adolph Benjamin Briscoe Sr., he was a high yeller man. Okay? Definitely when you look at him, he looks, my grandfather looks like Blackanese or something. You know what I'm saying? And so there's different races mixed in on my grandfather's side, the Briscoe side, right? Which I think my grandmother's maiden name was Boston, okay, until she got married, then it became Briscoe. And she kept that name for the rest of her life, okay? Now, that's how I came to be, right? That's my DNA. I definitely came from my mother. I definitely came from my mother. And that's, that's who I am. Why is it that I am being bullied constantly? And I've been getting bullied my whole life, or either people have been trying to bully me. By the way, there's a lot of stuff that oh my goodness gracious, you got to be careful with women. I had to fight off years ago this woman that was jealous of my mother marrying my father. It's crazy. It's crazy. Women can be nuts. Like, and she did curse my mother. And I fought that off. That's another thing. You gotta, you can't be distracted. But I wanted to come and talk about this because, this is so unofficiated. It's so stupid. Go check out my community wall. This chick is literally making a big production, wants me to die because of my skin tone and complexion. This heifer wants me dead because I'm light skinned. She just want me to be unhappy. She been stalking me for years, harassing me, stalking me, probably wakes up every day, probably got an altar, a curse altar, set up to try to curse me and my family. You know what I'm saying? Prior, that she prayed to every day, that I'm cursing. I'm just cursing her by her doing that. That's stupid. Why is this happening in the black community? Can we say that it had something to do with slavery? I don't think so. This is probably something that does go back and originate in Africa when y'all think about it. And it was stupid then, and it's stupid now. You know why I think it's stupid? Because just looking at my grandmother, just looking at the browner skinned women in my family, They have always been loved and always been wanted and always been cherished. They had husbands and men and good jobs and opportunity. What is going on with that? So when you come to social media and you see people, claiming that darker skinned people need representation, like legal representation and things of that nature, that's something that I'm not used to seeing. Matter of fact, when I lived in Georgia, I was discriminated against just like every other black in Georgia. It's a lot of racism in Georgia, y'all. They were paid to compel ourselves. It's weird. It's weird. Okay. I've been thinking about my grandmother and my mother a lot. And I was around my grandmother a lot. And when she retired, she did hair, but I would see her activities and the things that she did. My grandmother lived life. She lived life. You never once would ever see her taking the time. Never would Lena Briscoe, my grandmother's name was Lena, Lena. Never would you see Lena Briscoe on a computer program making an AI meme upset about her skin complexion. Not ever once. How do you give up your life, even 10 minutes of your time? The only reason why I'm even here talking about it is because of my love for people. And it matters. It does matter. It does count. And trust and believe it ain't nothing that I've said. It's not. Because these folks started with me years ago. Years ago. Money. You know what? I don't see it. I don't see it, but then again, I don't watch other folks' money. I don't know if that's why you were saying that, Miko, is because they're doing it for money. I have no idea. But I don't watch other people' money, so I have no idea why they're doing it. But I really think that it does point to how they feel about themselves. Go and live life while you got it, because I can promise you now, okay? As a lighter skinned black, I don't feel weakened to darker skinned people. I'm not afraid of you. I'm not afraid of you. I don't feel intimidated by you. But here's the crazy part about it. The very same people that are committing colorism towards me, they worship white people. They will throw their life in the garbage for white people. Make that make sense. So you don't like lighter skinned blacks who have existed since the dawn of time, but you worship white people, but you're proud of your dark skin while you worship white people for $0. Please make that make sense to me. And again, white folks, I'm not telling anybody to attack you. Trust me, they won't. They worship you like gods. I don't think anybody should be getting attacked for anything like that. I think racism and colorism and sexism, these are things that are doing nothing but killing people. Trust me, on a daily basis, I am constantly, those energies are not allowed. We are going through a rapid healing process over here, me and my collective, and I refuse to let that in. That to me is a part of the agenda to get you, they are trying to depopulate the earth, which is ridiculous. I think that is ridiculous, but whatever. Okay. So I think that that's a part of the agenda, but it's stupid. You know what I'm saying? And so what it is my job with all these agendas, because trust me, there's a lot of agendas against white people too. White people are not safe from that. But that right there, racism, colorism, sexism, this is where human beings start to kill themselves. This is where they become suicidal and self-destructive. That's stupid. That's a stupid thing. And you know what? When you imagine this, riddle me this. You're a dark skinned person, right? Right? You're a darker skinned person. And you know necromancy. You know death magic. Why do you think that your death magic is going to be justified on a person just because they're light skinned, even if you try to justify it to yourself? That's no justification, because God makes us the way that God wants us to be. You can't say or discount somebody just because of that. And this has been the problem. Colorism makes no sense whatsoever. I don't know. A lot of people have a theory that it's got to have something to do with the government. That's what a lot of people think. A lot of the things, white people going through their own shit too. What's going on with you? It makes no sense to me. And there are always the people that are colorists, they always like you know that thing in the South, yellow wasting. That's so ignorant. You know that a lot of this stuff that I've seen that's a part of Southern culture is something growing up in the Midwest I had never seen. I had never seen that before in my life. Maybe it's because my grandmother protected us from a lot of that stuff. She still does. You know, they say that Missouri is the heart of America. And then they also say that where is that at? I think they said that, was it the Fountain of Youth or something? They said something. Oh, the Garden of Eden. There's some people that believe that the Garden of Eden is located in Missouri. I don't know about that. This is the first time I ever heard of that. But I can believe it though. I can believe it. But it was something that was culture shock for me. And I can't believe that people in the South have been experiencing that and going through that, even, just with other people. And it's so sad. It's so sad that you have so much hatred within you that you have to project it out to people, to the point where, you're conjuring all of these negative spirits and negative energies that are only going to touch you. Trust me, I put that on that broken mirror work that I got up there. Trust me on that. And you know what I'm saying? Because whatever it is that you try to project out to me and my loved ones is coming back to you. It is. And I got a lot of other stuff going on, because that is sad, man. I'm not used to seeing that, guys. I wasn't raised around that. I was not. I was not raised around that. You know what I'm used to seeing the black woman do? My grandmother, my aunties, everybody, we be in the kitchen cooking. They taught me how to make homemade gravy years ago, but that's like an art form. And so I just be using the packaged gravy until I get some more practice. We was in the kitchen. They was very joyful. My grandmother was very joyful, very abundant, very demure. Loaded too, loaded. My grandmother was loaded financially. Financially, very well, did very well financially. Her whole life. She's brown. She was, I don't want to say dark skinned because my grandmother was, she would, and if you want to consider her to be that, then that's what it is. I've shown pictures of my grandmother. What is wrong and what happened to where you're literally feeling that way about yourself? And that didn't start just with me. And then, why do you think that I'm the one for that? Like, you do understand that my grandmother gave birth and produced the egg that produced my mother, and then my mother produced me. My grandmother loved me, so did my mother. They were trying to create hate between me and my mother. I'm never going to let you do that. I'm never going to let, even though my mother is gone, she's in the spirit realm. Me and her are working it out. You are never going to do that. I don't care what you think you're doing. My grandmother loved and cherished me. You can never take that away from me. That is my generational love. That is my generational wealth. That is mine. Why are they doing that? And it might be a tactic of just systematic abuse. Obviously, my grandmother is going to give all of her children, her grandchildren, her great grandchildren, her great great grandchildren. She's going to give them the tools that they need and the love that they need, even in the spirit realm. Even in the spirit realm. She's going to give that to us. She's going to protect us from that. Because as far as she's concerned, this is like some kind of alien force that she can see clearly attacking her family, and she's not going to have that whatsoever. I think it's ridiculous. I do. I think it's ridiculous. And the fact that you think that you can just bully people or that you're more powerful or stronger than people is absolutely ridiculous. And then what it's for some perversion. For perversion, that's where you really lose because of somebody else's sexual fantasy. Girl, bye. Girl, bye. You doing all that unjustifiably because, you know what I'm saying, because of some man's Johnson or some female that, got a itching for other women. Like, girl, bye. Like that's like, no. You know what I'm saying? It'd be different if anybody ever actually did something to you or even disrespected you. Nobody even really knows your family. Nobody really does. Nobody really even has anything out for you. They just want to be left alone. And so another thing that I noticed is that there's a lot of people, and you can tell that apparently it came from their ancestors, to where it's like generational death and sacrifice. My grandmother didn't do that. My grandmother had 7 children, and she would have had 8 had she not miscarried one of her babies. And it's a funny story. She used to tell us about it because my grandfather, when she miscarried the baby, she said that he carried the baby around in a jar. That's how much she loved her children. That was love. Not forever, but you know what I'm saying? She had a miscarriage. My grandmother, she didn't sign up for that. So when you got certain people, have y'all noticed that it's some people to where you can tell that generationally, they got some kind of thing to where it's like the firstborn son got to be sacrificed, or either you got to sacrifice this or do blood sacrifices. My grandmother never ordained that. She never doctrinated us into that. Never. She's never done that. She's never done that. Because I can hear and see everything, y'all. It's so weird. Like, I hear people's spirits talking, and sometimes I'll hear like this desperation, this desperate plea. Oh my God, it's coming for my children. It's coming for my children. It's coming for my children. We need to sacrifice something to it to satisfy it. And I don't want to give up none of my children. And so that's why y'all start attacking people's children. And so me being foreign to you, I'm like, and so my ancestors is hearing your ancestors, and they're reporting back to me, and they're like, well, what is this? We don't have anything to do with that. And then that's when you go back my blood back in my bloodline, where my mother's mother was a witch, and what I hear her saying is that, well, don't you know how to figure out how to ritualistically get rid of that spirit that's coming after your children, and in that way you ain't got to feel like you got to sacrifice somebody else's children? That's what she's saying. And then if you do the ritual, will you be satisfied with it? Will you trust it? Yes or no? And then you'll say, oh, well, I'm the matriarch. I'm a witch. I'm a magi. I'm a root worker. I'm a this and that. But you don't even trust your own work, to the point where you're constantly paranoid. You're the moon in the inverted position. And you get sicker and sicker and more degenerated. You're scared. You're afraid. You're scared and you're afraid because whatever it is that's coming after your children, which, I know what it is. It's coming after your children. And that's why you always trying to sacrifice other people's children, because you don't want your children to be sacrificed. But if something was after you trying to sacrifice your babies, why do you have to involve other people's babies? Why can't you stand up? How do you know that something like that wasn't after my family several generations ago? And my ancestors fought off that spirit. How do you know that? How deep does your understanding go? Because what is the problem for real? What is the issue? Because what it looks like to me, while y'all are attacking people's children, and I think that that's how people turn into child predators. I have to have a child to sacrifice because there's a demon that is after my children, and I'm going to try to give your children to it. That's just like being in that, y'all ever see that video game, Mario Brothers? It's a Mario. And it's like that demon is Bowser, and y'all don't know how to defeat Bowser. Bowser was real easy to defeat. Instead, what y'all doing is y'all trying to appease Bowser by trying to give, you know what I'm saying, feed other people's children to it. And then you run into people. You run into somebody that you and you be thinking just because they light skinned it or some of the, they or they're attractive or they're handsome or something, you be thinking that they damn weak, and they can see everything that you're doing, and they wonder what the fuck are you doing. My grandmama done already told me that ain't nothing trying to sacrifice her family ever welcome in none of the houses of her family. And then, so what are you going to do? Are you going to take a laser gun and try to shoot my grandmother's spirit? You can't do it. I don't get it. I don't get it. It's so ridiculous. I'm just, and I'm telling a true story about that. It's some people out there that got like bad spirits and bad juju after their kids, and they will become possessed by those spirits and go after people's kids. But those spirits are still going to take your children because you're too weak to stand up and fight it. You couldn't even be you was too weak to not attack other people, that strangers' children. That's just like walking into the house of a complete stranger. You gonna enter into a house of fucking horrors, and you think that you doing something and you're not. And so that's what I recognize sometimes when it comes to that. I don't know why that came out, but I think that that's what I'm seeing. And then people will say, well, she bullshitting, she don't know what she talking about. But you don't believe in entities now? So what do we believe in then? We believe in the computer and AI, and that's it. That's all that exists, and we're not actually here. None of this exists. It's just we're in a computer program and we don't actually exist. So there's a lot of people that, yeah, you're actually physically here, and God is going to continuously remind you of that. This is not a computer program. No, it's not. You're actually physically here. All of this is real. All of it is real. But because you are too weak minded to stand up, you won't stand up and fight it so that you can be delivered from that evil. You rather just say, oh, this is not real. This is a computer program. We're just computer people. We're not actually physically here. We're only interpreting our feelings and emotions, based upon a program, which that to me is a mental illness if you think that, because we're actually all physically here. We are. Because you don't want to face the music. You don't want to face whatever it is after your family. That's why you come after other people's family. People that are peaceful, loving people that are just trying to live their life. They're not thinking about you. They're not studying you, actually. You know what I mean? Because I've stood up against those demons. I've actually battled demons that were sent to destroy people's children and stuff. That's what I do for a living. That's what I do for a living, literally. Okay. And to me, it ain't no thing but a chicken wing on a string for me. You know what I'm saying? It really ain't no big deal to me. I don't take it for granted, but it just is kind of like a normal thing for me. You know what I'm saying? And child sacrifice and ritual sacrifice and religious abuse and all of that stuff. I know a lot about that stuff, and it's because I've got experience from the inside. So it's not just something that I read about, something that I've dealt with, I've battled, I've fought, right? And survived. It's crazy. Back to the colorism thing though. Maybe colorism is just used as a tool or something. I don't know. I can't imagine being a human being that is not happy and okay with myself. Especially once you reach a certain age. And then especially when you start talking about magic and witchcraft. Those things have nothing to do with it. Literally, those things, they literally flake away like a old scab. When you start really getting into spirituality, those things no longer exist, or are they a problem anymore? I'm not even gonna lie to y'all. I ran into this sister's channel. She was on fire. She don't even get that many views, but she was on fire with it. She said, I do not, she's a follower of Hecate. She said, I do not get into that when it comes to black people. And I'll share, I'll try to find her video and share it to my community. Wow, that sister was on fire with it. When you elevate and when you evolve spiritually, those things no longer exists to you and you handle it differently. You're certainly not targeting people and angry about your skin color. You're not. You're not doing that at all. And if somebody discriminates against you based upon that, you know how to happen. You know how to deal with it to shift your reality too. You know how to shift your reality around that to where it's no longer a problem, and you don't have to hurt other people. You don't have to attack other people. You know what I mean? It is what it is. I mean, I don't know. I always go with my spirit guides. If I ask them, hey, am I in any danger? Like, is there something that I need to be concerned about this group of black women that hate me because of my skin complexion? And if they say yes, then obviously my grandmother would be the first go to. She would, because if she were still here, she would be fighting you. She wouldn't be fighting you physically. But my grandmother was an Aquarius. She was like the Aquarius. She was literally the water bearer. She was the healer. She was. She was amazing. Straight up and down, man. So and it's something that it's just like whatever it is that you're going through, you know what I'm saying. I'm not, and one thing that I found about some people is that when you wish them well and you wish them love and light, they take that love and light and they convert it, they transmute it to something negative, and they throw knives at you, they stab you in the back. So I don't do that no more. It's sad we can't be no love and light because it's not getting any better. Hell, it's been going on for years. You're not getting any better. So if I say, well, I hope you heal, I'm not going to say that. I take that back. I take that back. If you're a close family with, I don't have nobody in my family tripping out like that. I don't. I'm gonna be honest with you. They may even, they may even do some gossiping, but really in their heart of hearts, my grandmother is in their heart and soul. They can't stop that. She had nothing but love for herself, extreme love for herself and her family. So I can't say to you, I wish that you get better, because if I make you better, you're going to use that strength to come back and stab me. That's sad when you have nothing against a person, but they're constantly creating this hate constantly. But I will tell you this, you keep trying to kick up all them damn homeless vagabond spirits, and you ain't gonna be given no more chance cards, because that's them spirits. You conjure them up, they can't get into the house that you send them to, so they'll go somewhere else that ain't covered. Right, they'll go somewhere else that's not covered or protected. And that's sad that you're doing all that for such a trivial reason. That, I'm going to say go talk to God, but then you're not even really talking to a real God, because if it's really God, God is going to say to you, love yourself. God is not going to say to you, hey, all these people have something against you and you're less than because of your skin complexion. Because that's total paranoia. You're paranoid. Nobody even cares about that. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's crazy. My significant other is basically the same complexion as me, and he's been through a lot because of it too. But men handle things differently. And he ain't gonna never come to me and say I'm hurting because of this or that. You know, if he tells me where it hurts, I'm gonna make it better, and I'm gonna see it what it is and I'm going to make it better. But, men handle things differently. You know what I'm saying? That's just so sad that's such a waste of time. That's a waste of a life. I don't know. Could my significant other survive gang stalking? Oh yeah, hell yeah, but he ain't about to be gang stalked. He would whip that. He would whip it and wham it real quick, and that's not that is not something that's ever gonna happen because he would shut it down and oh my God, it would be a lot of sad people out there. Okay, so he could absolutely. He probably already has. If y'all only knew him, y'all don't know him. And we're going to keep it that way. We're going to keep it exactly that way because really the gang stalking, it's been over for years. The gang stalking actually was over officially in 2020. But people that were unauthorized and wanting to hold on to it, that's been over. That's gang stalking. I'm not being gang stalked. I'm just using idiots as target practice. I'm gonna be honest with you. We're not sensitive to gang stalking. Me and my sons, we're the ones that went through it for years. We're not sensitive to that. That's just like a bunch of pink elephants in a room and we just kind of pop them, like how you stick a pin in a balloon and pop it, nobody cares. Gang stalking is and it has not been trauma for us either. I told y'all that whole time because that's what gang stalking is about. It's about trying to bring about trauma and and CPTSD and all of that, which is complex post-traumatic stress disorder or whatever the fuck they call it. I protected us from that, doing consistent healing and shielding and return to senders. That shit ain't really affected us at all. It may have affected some people on the outside of it because they're still doing it. And there's some people that can't really discern how it is affecting a person. But for me, it ain't changed my mind. It ain't changed nothing for me. And I've been given the authority to literally obliterate gang stalkers. A lot of people that are being gang stalked, they are extremely sensitive to it. Extremely. And I keep telling people to stop being sensitive to it. But I think it's the people that have like OCD, like they can't stop thinking about something and it just replays in their mind. Somebody say something to them and it just replays in their mind over and over again. And, especially during the full moon when things intensify, they don't really know how to control their own mind. So they just, here come this damn beetle bug again. He always roll up on me. And then he'll come and bump me on the side of my head. It'll be like, I'm going in. Yeah, I'm not sensitive to gang stalking at all. It is a sick, twisted game, but that's been game over for a very long time. And I'm going to tell you what the number one deity you can go to if you're being gang stalked, and that's going to be Santa Muerta. She knows all about gang stalking and things of that nature. She knows it all. Okay. Now, a lot of people, they like, no, it's God, it's Yahweh. Okay, fine. Okay, fine. Okay. But, for me, I'm going to tell y'all straight up and down, I wasn't trying to be involved with Yahweh's false lovers and false friends. So that's one of the reasons why I have an issue with religion, because I didn't want the people in my life that apparently Yahweh chose for me. So that's why, it's different for women. It really is very different for women. Of course, anybody can survive gang stalking. You can't be weak-minded. It's all about what you identify as. It's all about your identity and what you think about and the way you see things. So why would you accept an identity or a reality or an inevitability that somebody else gave to you? You should never do that. You should never do that. So when it comes to me working with people that are quote unquote targeted individuals, when it comes to me working with them, there are several things that I tell them. First of all, we're going to work on taking back your mind, your thoughts. You need to take back your mind. You need to take back your essence. Okay. You need to take your soul back. You need to take you back. That's the first thing we work on. We're not gonna, and see, if a client can't do that, then that's when it becomes a problem. Because a lot of times, listen, especially if you grew up with that, if you grew up with it, if you grew up in an environment that was staged and all that stuff like that, if you grew up with that without real love and a real family. So it's very difficult for people, and trust me, I've had quite a few clients that were targeted for different reasons. And that's the first thing that they have to look at. They have to look at themselves, and you have to see, they have to say, because I was raised in a very healthy way. My mother and my father and my grandmother, believe it or not, they let me be myself. They didn't create a person. They let me, and most of the people in my family, nobody was raised that way to be a certain way. And that's not how you raise up children. But a lot of people do that. And I'm very grateful for that I was allowed to be who I am. I was allowed to grow as a person. See what I'm saying? But it's a lot of people that were not, their identity was not, what do you call that? Embraced. Even if it was a good identity. Now, obviously, if you're doing things like hurting animals or doing something that is concerning to your parents, they should correct you on that. But the good things about yourself, the creative things about yourself, especially if you were an empath, um, I can remember being a little bitty child, and just walking up to some of my aunts and uncles or cousins and saying, does your arm hurt right there? Or does your leg or your foot hurt right there? And they would say, yeah. And I would touch their arm or their foot or their leg and it would feel better. See, stuff like that is things that was embraced for me, especially when my grandmother was alive. So I wasn't put to shame because of my spiritual gifts. It wasn't scary for people. It wasn't a thing, you know what I'm saying? But a lot of people, they were raised in an abusive environment to where, stuff like that was, they got beat for stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? It was triggering to the people around them. I didn't grow up that way. So I had my whole life to grow in that love. Because my grandmother put a lot of love in me. My grandmother put a lot of love in all of us. In all of us, okay? And so it's a lot with that, especially when it comes to your ancestors. It's important to commune with them because my grandmother was into astrology, right? For example, my grandmother was into astrology. And my grandmother sat there just recently and showed me the formula of the zodiac. I'm not tell y'all what it is, but everybody got their own footprint My grandmother showed me her blueprint of the alchemical energies, the astrological energies that she worked with. Even though my grandmother was in the Eastern Star and she left to go to Christianity, my grandmother was still into astrology. She kept books of astrology in her house, and my grandmother would watch the skies. She would watch that kind of stuff, okay? Especially when they invented computers and you could just go look it up. So she actually gave me the blueprint of the planetary alchemy energies that she used. Now, like I said, I'm not going to tell anybody, but I think that that is another step that you can take to help you. But it can't just be just anything. You know what I'm saying? Like for I'm gonna give you guys an example so y'all can understand that. Let's say that your ancestor primarily worked with the energies of Leo, the sun, right? For whatever purpose. Somebody else may have something different to where your ancestor may have just used Gemini, Mercury. You have to ask them, they'll tell you. So, those are the things that, people need to know. And these are the things that a lot of people that are distracted are either trying to cause a distraction. They're trying to cause a distraction. Um, Speaking of which, guys, I'm going to put a quick reading up to be available. It's not necessarily, you don't have to get on the phone or anything. It can just be a quick astrological reading of your ancestors, because that's something that you need to know. So that'll be available on my link tree. Hey, my grandmother's name was so and so. What alchemical energies did they utilize for whatever, for the situation? And I don't mind reading that for you. Okay. So a lot, and it's really weird. So I know for a fact that that's going to help out a lot of people. Those are the things that people have distracted us from. And the way that we divinate with that is many different, many different ways we can divinate with that. I use the cards personally. Okay. Now, I'm not afraid to help people. If you're going to help people, then truly help them. I'm not afraid of doing that because, when it comes to your spirit guides and, if it comes to like your adversaries trying to utilize your knowledge against you, they all have a plan for that. You know what I'm saying? So, for example, like if somebody that don't like me, or they're like, well, I'm trying to figure out how to take you down, Jamila, tell me, my ancestor so and so. I wouldn't suggest doing that. I wouldn't suggest doing that, trying to use that against me. That's valuable information that's more than likely going to heal you and get you out of that. You know what I'm saying? So it just makes no sense. But even if somebody did do that, you know what I'm saying? Because it'll be an astrological report. It'll be short and sweet. You know what I'm saying? Unless you need extensive advice on it. I mean, if you don't know how to work with astrological energy, depends on where you at with it. I personally consider myself to be advanced level. Especially the past couple of months, I've learned a lot. So, those are things that are going to help you. Those are things that are going to, that way you're not hurting and caught up in this and constantly having to watch your back and stuff. Why live like that when you can live in peace? You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. People that are constantly at war, so yeah, that'll be available on my link tree, guys, for y'all to do that. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of us that have lost, I know for a fact that there are a lot of people out there that either lost their father, their mother, their grandmother, their grandfather, maybe an auntie. You know what I'm saying? That when they were alive, stuff was different. You may want to know that about your mother. You know what? I really the planetary and the astronomy and astrological aspect of things is where they've been teaching me, even my grandmother. But as far as the gematria, if I saw it, then I could say yes, because but I may not call it that. You know what I'm saying? I may not call it that because somebody else named it that, but it might be something that I already do. So, but I don't. Yeah, I don't. I the gematria I probably do, but it to me it's just something that I do that I haven't exactly labeled, because I've noticed that some of the things that I've been doing for years since I was a kid, and I'll see something, I'll be like, well, I've been doing that since I was a kid. I didn't know it was called that. So I'll get back with you on that. That'll be something interesting that we can actually talk about. So, um, as far as with reducing the numbers and stuff like that, like, I do work with frequencies of numbers, right? But as far as like a gematria, if I could see the formula or whatever the energy is behind it, it's probably like, yeah, I do that, and I just don't call it that. But definitely, it is important to know what they did. Like I was saying, guys, if you had somebody that you lost, and while they were here, because when you lose somebody like your mother and your grandmother, like I said, when I lost my grandmother, and my mother, it was like a huge, significant loss, to the point where it almost felt like a curse. It was like, something ain't right with this. This don't feel right. This don't feel right. Something is really crazy about this. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't like this feeling, because life changes, and you sometimes wonder, how am I going to survive without this person? Because regardless to what you went through with that person, because me and my mom, we went through it. We did. It wasn't because of what we wanted. My mother was going through cancer and stuff like that. Um, yeah, me and her went through it. But they still was looking out for you. And when they died, you felt it. And you knew instantly that when that person was here, they were definitely doing something, even if they didn't want to. So when they died, it's just like, things ain't the same. You know what I'm saying? This is weird. And it's because energetically they're in the spirit realm, but there is ways of you know holding and containing. I don't want to say it like that. There is ways of pulling in your ancestor that you lost and their energy, and so that they're just not gone, because they do want to help you like that. I know that my grandmother stepped forward, and she, like I said, she was really into astrology. She didn't do blogs or nothing like that. My grandmother passed away years ago. Okay. But she still had her formula. So you need your personal ancestral formula, for you to make your herbs, like a herbal potion based upon that, certain things that you may need, certain days, that'll help you, because it's so much stuff going on out here, y'all, that people are all mixed up, and I'm not in business. Why would I be in spiritual business to not do what I say I'm gonna do? That makes no sense. That's when, you know what I'm saying. Nobody's gonna, you know. So that's one thing that can more than likely help you immediately. You know, it just really depends on what you've been doing about it. But I think that that's definitely something that, you know, will give you a really good foundation. Okay. So anywho, that's pretty much it. Yeah, I'll put that up and have that available on the website, guys. And what you'll want to do, because I keep record of everything, but what you want to do when you get that report, you'll want to keep it. You know, if you lose it, then you can, you know, I'll keep record of it, you know, and you can just request it, you know. I'm not a secretary now, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, I ain't no free secretary, but you can just request the report. And, I don't know. I think I'm gonna do it in probably a quick video format, but then also, you know, capture pictures of it, you know, with a brief explanation and, you know, messages from that particular ancestor. Okay. So yeah. Anyway, yeah, I'm gonna get off of here now and do that because it's time for me to get in the shower, y'all. So y'all have a good night. You know what I'm saying? But I'm sorry. A lot of these people that are starting these wars and stuff, you know, you know, I'm a very giving and I'm also a very loving person. But it's I'm not necessarily a person that is self-sacrificing to the point where I'm just gonna let somebody drag me down under and drown me out and hurt me, or either my loved ones. I'm not gonna do that. You know what I'm saying? So I can't sit up here and say, you know, but I do know that with this, I will tell you this is that if you are an enemy, just put up your protection and walk away if you feel like I'm your enemy. Unless you feel like there's some sort of reward or something that you're getting out of going back and forth, I can't see what the reward would be. Okay. And I think that if there is some kind of reward, you're limiting yourself a whole lot. And it ain't worth it to me. So, anywho, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching, you guys. And, I'll see y'all next time. Okay? All right. Blessings to, wait a minute. Did fallen angels teach this forbidden knowledge? Let me answer that question that keep it SK2FH. Uh, yeah, but you're on the earth though too. You're on the earth though too. Yeah, divine justice is important, but no, there's not a reward. So you must have missed most of the conversation that I was talking about. There is no divine justice for attacking me, especially over whatever hangups that you got about yourself. You will never get divine justice for that. Because I didn't come into this world, I'm not that type of person. I didn't come into this world to struggle and to fight with people and I didn't know that's not the lifestyle that I was ever meant to live. And it doesn't matter. These people are complete strangers in social media, and you can't just try to form this trauma bond with an enemy based upon your hangups in your life. But yeah, the reward for us is divine justice, absolutely. But for somebody that's doing that, you know what I'm saying? Like, no, I'm not gonna let you do that. But you said, did fallen angels teach this forbidden knowledge? Probably. Probably so. What's wrong with that? Is there something wrong with that? Somebody got to say something. Do you feel that there's something wrong with that? Okay, and how do we really know that God didn't create those fallen angels to give us the message? Because even when it comes to people and their crops growing, they do that stuff under different suns and different moons and stuff. You know what I'm saying? You know, farmers utilize, you know, the various stars and stuff. You know, that's why we keep track of that stuff. They cross the creator. I don't think anybody can cross the creator. I don't really think that that's I don't believe that is the true story. Okay. I don't believe that that's the true story. We're talking about the creator of the universe. We're talking about the creator of Earth. We're talking about the creator of all of the planets. Is that what we're talking about? We're talking about the divine creator, right? I don't believe that that's the true story. Okay, that's just me. Okay. All right, guys, let me get out of here, though. I gotta go. Okay. Y'all have a good night. I don't want to get into a, I'm not going to get into a religious debate. Okay. I got to go. Bye.